Last Night on the Internet.
Hey, and welcome to Last Night on the Internet, the show where haunted legends, forgotten conspiracies, and, those late night rabbit holes come together under one weird little roof, this platform. Victor, and tonight I'm taking you back to my hometown. My previous episodes have all been, internet lore, but that's not the only topic that I want this podcast to be, so I like, local urban legends. I like a little bit of, scary true crime. So I figured tonight we'll go back to my hometown because, every town has a story that it doesn't put on the brochure. In the town of Mission, Texas, in the lower RGV, it's a chapel. And something about it just doesn't sit right with me. There's something unsettling about a place that feels too quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, but the kind that presses in around you, like the air itself is holding its breath. At least that's the way I felt the first time I went to Lomita Chapel. It was broad daylight, about 3 in the afternoon. The sun was out, grass was dry, and I was just there filming for another YouTuber. I was doing some B-roll. Nothing out of the ordinary except the feeling that I had. Like, I didn't feel like I was in danger. I didn't feel like there was scary things out to get me. It just felt off, like I wasn't alone there. Like something unseen was just staring into the space with me. Just watching it, but not threatening. And once you know the stories of La Lomita, it starts making a little more sense to you. Because this chapel, it doesn't just hold history, it holds something else. La Lomita Chapel was built in the late 1800s for missionaries, specifically the Oblates of Mary. Mary Immaculate, that's what it was. On paper, it's a story of faith, traveling priests, long dusty roads, spreading the gospel in the RGV, the Rio Grande Valley. But the local legend, that's where things start to rot. Now, depending on who you ask, because I've asked around, people will say the priests and the nuns who lived there weren't just breaking bread, they were breaking vows. There are whispers about, forbidden relationships, about pregnancies that had to be kept quiet. And this is without even mentioning the infants that were buried in shallow graves behind the chapel. The story is that after a hurricane damaged the chapel, 2 families came over the river to help repair it. Instead of, roof beams or altar stones, they found bones. Tiny infant bones. That discovery didn't stay quiet for long. Eventually the mob showed up, furious, as anyone would be. 2 priests were killed that day. The nuns vanished. Some say they ran, some say they never really left. The chapel ended up abandoned. The ground went quiet, but not for long. After a while, people claimed that they started hearing things. Babies crying, screams, some close, some far off, as if they were being carried in the wind. Others claimed to see bones resurface after heavy rains, as if the land was trying to confess. And there's that nun. The one nun that people see at night. She would be seen kneeling outside the chapel under the moon, with her head bowed. Some say she was innocent, just caught in the chaos. Others end up saying that she was the cause of it all. Either way, she stays. 3 years later, there was a seminary that was built nearby the chapel in walking distance. It was built there to train the new priests. But that didn't last long either. Complaints of too many lights flickering without power, voices in empty rooms, footsteps pacing above you when there was no one even upstairs. Eventually it was shut down and left to rot, just like everything else around La Lomita. That was then. Today, part of the land is a public park. It looks pretty nice, friendly. Even you'll see a lot of families running around there and having fun. But if you ask around, no one stays after dark. Not even the locals, not even the brave skeptics. Because even in the daylight, you could feel it. Something is still there. I felt it myself when I was there filming, and that's kind of why I wanted to talk about it. I didn't see a ghost, I didn't hear crying, I didn't see bones rising from the ground, but I swear here, something was present. Like, the space wasn't completely empty. I was being given permission. That's how it felt, that I was just being given permission to be there in that area. Being allowed in, but not left unnoticed. And honestly, to me, I think that's worse than a jump scare. Because sometimes the most haunted places in the world don't even scream. They whisper. Now, I want to cover more local urban legends because I feel that some towns, especially the small ones, always have a story to tell. If I'm lucky, they have more than one story. And that's how it is in the RGV. So I want to dedicate a couple of episodes to that. Also, if there's any listeners in the RGV that want to, give me a lead onto another story, feel free to write in. You can leave a comment on the YouTube channel. You can leave a comment on the podcast on Spotify. Or you can even email me at lastnightpod@gmail.com. Even if you're not from the RGV, this is worldwide here. If you have a local urban legend or tale to tell from your town, let me know about it. You can come tell it yourself, or you can let me know and I'll investigate and I'll share my findings. But this has been Last Night on the Internet. Once again, I'm Victor, and I'll be back next week with another story that's too weird for the daylight. But tonight, if you feel like you're not alone, maybe it's because you're not. Tune in next week.